Assalamualaikum and a very good day or good night, whichever time zone you are in. I'm Sirhajwan Idek. I'm an English language teacher. I'm teaching at Canning Vocational College, and I'm also the head of Research and Innovation Unit at this school. Now, the title of my talk today is From Borneo Tales to Zombie Apocalypse. I'm going to talk about three different teaching ideas, practices, or projects that I have developed in the past. So these three, they are Think Tales. It's the recipient of Senior Australia Education Link in 2018. Second one, See and Say. So this project won International Society of Technology in Education, or ISTE, Literacy Innovation in 2019. And the last one, third one, is Zombie Challenge Series, which won gold medal in Thailand at an innovation contest in Thailand, as well as best paper presentation at a conference in Singapore. So I hope these ideas will inspire you guys to come up or to develop with your own teaching practices. The inventing yourself with new projects and new ideas from time to time and make your classroom and school more exciting. I purposely put all the list of the awards so that I hope you guys will watch this talk until the end to find out more about these projects. So the first one is Think Tales and the Borneo collection. Now, if you look at all of these titles, they are the titles of the short stories that I myself wrote. I've written over 30 to 40 short stories related to Bajau tales or Bajau legends, which is the ethnic background that I come from. So I'm Bajau since I'm from Sabah. Sabah is a home to diverse ethnic backgrounds. So I decided to write short stories based on my own customs and traditions. So if you're familiar with Sabah and you're familiar with Sabahan cultures, you might be familiar with some of these words. If not, some of them are Bajau names and some of them are Bajau words. So with this project, I was the recipient of I became the first Malaysian to receive Senior Australia Education Link Awards in 2018. I won 10,000 Australian dollars. That's equivalent to Ringgit Malaysia 28,000. I was a finalist before in 2015 with a different idea, but I didn't win. I was in the top 5. And I decided to take part in this competition again in 2018, and I won. So you'll never know where your projects can take you, okay? And you definitely can try this competition, Senior Australia Education Link Awards, once it opens in the future. So Think Tales is basically a collection of short stories that I used in my class, and at the same time I use these short stories to encourage my students to develop their own short stories related to their ethnic backgrounds and origins. So if you look at these slides, you will see some of the mythical creatures in the Bajau community in Sabah. I like writing short stories based on supernatural creatures. So if you look at the first two, Galap and Kopop, they are the naughty supernatural creatures that our parents used to warn us when we were kids. And the next two, Mangila and Sumanga, they are good spirits. They are supposed to protect us from harm or from bad luck. So this is a summary of one of the stories that I've written. The first short story that I've ever written, it's called Blabla. In Bajau language, that means scarecrow. So it's about a supernatural creature that had this particular appearance that for most of the communities, it's an unacceptable appearance. So what I like to do is that I like to insert some of the Bajau words in my short story, and then I provided the English translation to it, just to make it to localize the short story so that it highlights the traditional culture or custom of the indigenous people in Sabah, particularly in my case, the Bajau community. So since my students, they come from diverse ethnic backgrounds, so I encourage them I use my short stories, I let them read it, and then I encourage them to develop their own short stories. So they did their own research, They wrote their own draft, and then we had a storytelling session where they uh, performed their stories to their classmates. And then you could see how proud they were and how excited they were in telling their stories, especially when their classmates were asking questions, were requesting for clarification. So it's a good thing. If you look at this slide, you'll see one of my students talk about Dang Insum. It's a famous legend, a famous legendary figure, female figure in the Bisaya community, and it's related to Brunei too. And then one of my students talk about Gun Soloi, it's a famous legend among the Dusun community. And then one of my students talk about Balan Balan, the infamous supernatural creature from Kota Belud, and and he is from Kota Belud. And then one of my stories adapted a story related to one of the traditional items among the Kadazan Dusun community. We also co-organized a camp, an English language camp, where my students, they wrote their own short stories, they created their own storybooks, and they performed these short stories to the primary school kids that attended the camp. So when you look at these titles, these short stories are related to the Murut and Dusun communities, since most of my students are either Murut or Dusun. So when you look at this, like Hinava is a famous cuisine among the Kadazan Dusun community. Bobolian means witch doctor. Mondowoi and Tombiruo, they are supernatural guardians. So the kids, they learn to embrace the children, our students, learn to embrace their ethnic backgrounds. So in the past, people feel might feel embarrassed about their ethnic back and their origins, their customs and traditions. They don't want to be seen backward or conservative or traditional. But the thing about it is that it's very good to embrace who we are, our custom and origin, and then be very proud of it, and then use them in our learning. So this is a particular tech. This is one of the techniques that I like to use in my class. For the students to write their own short stories. I like to use the word anchor. So find anything that is related to Sabah that you would like to talk about, particularly your own ethnic background, and then use the anchor to develop your short story. And obviously, you need to have a character, you need to have a setting, you need to have a problem that the character will have to deal with, and then the character, at the end of the day, will be able to solve this problem. So there's a solution, and then by the end of the story, they need to have a message that they should deliver to the listeners or readers. So I've delivered a TEDx talk related to this idea. It's called Be Random, Get Ridiculous, Make It Real. So you can check it out on YouTube. So that's about it. Think Tales. My next idea, I call it See and Say. So See and Say is based on visuals. We live in the era where we use a lot of internet, mobile devices, and social media platforms. And we communicate using visuals a lot. Some of the example of visuals, obviously photos, videos, and some of the most famous one are like emoji. When you look at the emoji, the first emoji, it means someone, the person is happy. The second one, it means the person feels shy or feels embarrassed. And then the last emoji, that's the devilish emoji, it can mean, oh no, something bad is about to happen. So these emojis, we use them in communication, particularly on WhatsApp, Telegram, Facebook, and they convey a lot of meanings, but we don't even have to use words. We just use visuals. And then next to it is meme or internet meme. So they are pictures that are out of place, hilarious pictures, uh, ridiculous photos that convey certain meanings. So emoji and memes, they are types of visuals that people are using increasingly as a result of internet and mobile devices. And we don't even use words for this. And if you look at this photo, this is one of the most famous photo in our history. I like to use them in my class, particularly for the for the students of lower English language proficiency, and I show them this photo and ask them to come up with questions related to this photo. So they came up with various questions. what happened to the boy, why was the vulture waiting there. And then one of the students came up with a question that I didn't anticipate. And somebody took this photo. What did the person do to help the child? So, this is a group of students whose English proficiency was quite low. So most of the time they were not really able to express their ideas in English or even in their native language. They prefer to just stay quiet. But when you show them visuals with no words, it really helped them to express their ideas. So that's the power of visual. Especially now we are living in the era of technology, mobile technology and internet, where people use visuals a lot to communicate. So there's a term we call visual literacy. It refers to our ability to interpret visuals and also to use visuals to convey message. Now, we are familiar with the four language skills: reading, listening, speaking, and writing. But some argue that visual literacy or viewing skill might be one of the skills that should be considered as a language skill. So that means we don't have four language skills. We have the fifth language skill, and that is visual literacy or viewing skill. And one of the quotes that I took from some research, it says that we live in a world where images are being used more frequently, and we need to learn how to interpret these visuals. Excuse me. So when you show them text, sometimes the students they just simply recite everything from the text, uh, and they probably don't even understand what they are reciting. When you ask them questions, and when you tell them that the answers are not in the text, they usually end up again reciting things from the text. But when you show them visuals, photos, like the one that you can see on the slide, uh, there's no word, but somehow I guess they feel more comfortable to express their ideas because they are not constrained. They don't feel constrained by text, which what usually happens when we give them reading materials. So we are not saying that reading skill is not important. It's still important, but maybe for the novice learners, and based on the previous research, it shows that it works best with novice learners, that it's better probably to get them familiar with visuals before we move on to materials with text where they learn to read. So they probably master viewing skills first and then reading skills, or maybe let them become more comfortable in expressing their ideas through visuals. Then we move to reading articles. Now, visuals is important because as you can see here, uh, the photo, the first photo is what people see on the media. Okay, so when you look at it, people will probably interpret it as a photo where a fellow soldier is helping another soldier uh, in the battlefield. So they came from the same team. But when you look at the actual picture, it's actually two soldiers were holding another soldier, maybe from the enemies, and they were holding him as a hostage, and maybe they intended to harm him. So this was the actual photo, but it's not the photo that people actually see on the media. So that's how powerful visual is, and that's why we need to teach the students on visuals. Particularly in visual literacy, or in this case, it's called media literacy. So with photos, you can use them to encourage the students to write dialogues. As you can see in this photo, I put the two bubbles so that they can fill in with dialogues. And then with dialogues, they can do role play, they can do sketch, they can do conversation, they can do so many things based on their imagination. They also can read a fiction or a fictional bio about somebody. When you show them a photo of a person like this, and then they begin to put together the life, the experience that this person uh, has gone through. Okay, so these photos, I took them from a material where there were photos of refugees. And then you can use visuals to teach them on interpretation skills. And it can be any visuals, adverts, movie poster, infographics. There are lots of visuals, and when you look at these visuals, it's something that is very different. That's very unique about it. So the students can interpret it in so many ways. So that's very interesting about it. So I like to use visual thinking routines. You can check it on the internet. So some of the routines are like see and think and wonder. They have to, what do you see? What do you think? What makes it? What do you wonder about it? Okay, and then the question starts. There are few questions, question stems where you can actually develop questions from it, and then you ask the kids, to think about the answers. So with this project and research, I became the first non-American to win the Easter Education Literacy Innovation Award, uh, which is based in the US. And I was also awarded with a local grant worth of 7,000 ringgit Malaysia to expand my research in this project, which is visual literacy. So my third idea is called Zombie Challenge. Obviously, it's based on zombie. So we use zombie as the theme, but the concept that we use is gamification. Gamification is where, when you play video games, there are elements of video games like levels, level 1, level 2, level 3, badges, points. You always have some points, and then you have rewards, and yet you have some rules that you have to follow, and then you have your own avatar. That means a personal, a a character that represents you in the video games, and obviously it is a competition. So since nowadays a lot of people play video games, what we do is that we, based on the concept of gamification, we take the elements of video games like points, badges, levels, rules, and then we incorporate these elements into non-game context, in this case classroom activities. So with zombie challenge series, these are the pictures of the activities that we did when we carried out the Zombie Challenge series. So it comprises four main activities, or in this case, we call them levels. Okay, zombie escape, zombie defense, zombie war, and zombie hunt. So one level leads to another. For example, for level 1, it's called zombie escape. So we show the students a video. It's a TED video. It's called Can You Solve the Bridge Riddle? So in that video, there's a situation where a group of people need to escape a group of zombies, and they have to do it within a specific time limit with certain challenges and constraints that they have to abide by. So there's a challenge in this activity. So once the students are able to complete these activities, once the students are able to complete these activities, they are going to be evaluated. Their answers are going to be evaluated. So if they get full mark, they will get 5,000 fictional amount of money, and that's 5,000. And then if they get 70%, they get fictional amount of 30,000. So what is this cash for, this fictional cash? Now, this fictional cash will be useful in the next level, level 2, because based on the concept of video games, there's a level 1, there's level 2, and then once you complete the first level, you will move to the next level. Whatever rewards or points that you gather from the first level, it will be useful in the following levels. Just like this one, the fictional rewards will be used in the next level. Now, once they are able to complete one particular level, you congratulate them, you can give them badge, just like in video games. So level 2 is the stage where they are given fictional amount of money, worth of 20,000 ringgit Malaysia, and then they have to use this money to purchase some items in an imaginary context, purchase certain items to defend themselves against the zombie. So that's where the previous fictional cash that they win come into use, where they actually use this, where they actually can have extra money to buy more items in order to defend themselves against the zombie. And again, they will be evaluated, and this time the rewards are not in terms of in the forms of fictional cash, but they are given extra times for the next level, the third level, where they will be doing a different activity. So this is how gamification works. One level leads to another, and they are all related. Whatever that you do in one level, it will affect your performance or your chance in the following level. So when we did this activity, we studied previous research. For example, when you award the students based on speed, the students will be giving their answers as quick as possible, and they don't bother much about whether their answer is correct or not. So as a result of that, we gave each team an equal amount of time, 10 minutes. And it's more effective for older learners, and it also works best for when it's carried out within a shorter amount of time. So we carried out for 2 days, and then we did this on our students who were upper secondary school students. So this idea, it won a gold medal at an innovation contest in Thailand, and it was awarded with best paper presentation at a conference in Singapore. So there's this saying that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I like this saying. I've been getting all this individual recognition, these types of individual recognition for my achievement, for my teaching project. So what I like to do is that I like to encourage my colleagues and my students to take part in innovation contests, any competitions and conferences outside Malaysia. And we have been to Europe, Asia, Oceania, and as well as we took part in competitions in North America too. So there are lots of platforms where you can actually present your ideas, your projects. One of them is Conference. You definitely can present your projects or your teaching ideas at conferences. So these two, Eurasia and SCPI, are the two conferences that we like to attend, conferences that are held outside Malaysia. And you can take part in innovation contests, definitely. There's an association called WIIPA, World Invention Intellectual Property Associations. So they organize lots of innovation competitions in other countries, in many countries, including Malaysia. You can definitely apply for research grants. You have a teaching idea, you would like to do research on it. Obviously, you do need to do research on it. So you definitely can apply for research grants, local research grant or international ones. And then you can apply for scholarship. Now, when we talk about scholarship, people always think about scholarship that you apply for when you like to further your study in postgraduate education. But a scholarship can be awarded. There's a scholarship for conference and course. That means if you get the scholarship, you will be able to present at a conference or attend a conference or attend a course on a fully funded trip. So you definitely will have to look at that too. So you can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. So long that you have ideas, keep putting them into realities, keep uh, making them, turning them into your teaching practice so that you can further develop them, gain feedback, and then you are able to improve your ideas. And one day you'll never know where you can go with these kind of ideas. With that, I'd like to thank you.